Master of Sports of International Class in Academic Weightlifting of the Republic of Belarus, Specialist of the Olympic Games, multi-time world and European champion in the competitions on the rowing simulator Concept 2, record holder. Now I'm Pavel Shurmey. I'm a soldier of the regiment named after Kostas Kalinovsky, a Belarusian volunteer who fights in Ukraine together with the Ukrainians against the Russian aggression. Master of Sports of International Class in Academic Weightlifting of the Republic of Belarus. For almost 17 years, I have been competing for the national team of the Republic of Belarus in academic weightlifting. After that, the professional sport ended, but I also took part in the competitions on the Concept 2 training machines in the world and European championships. Master of Sports of International Class in Academic Weightlifting of the Republic of Belarus. Before the start of the war, I was in the United States of America. I went to train with the veterans. I did not lose weight, and on February 24, I left the United States of America. Well, I thought that everything, Russia, Putin, let's go for a walk. And I immediately knew that I would fly to Ukraine. Otherwise, it's not just a war between Ukraine and Russia. This is the first fight of the people of Ukraine for the right to life. And this is a fight between evil and good. And for us, Belarusians, those who are fighting here, this is the way home. Because the victory of Ukraine against our common enemy is an opportunity for us to return home to Belarus. The victory of Ukraine in the war is more important than the processes in Russia. When the Russians will be there, Putin, if not Putin, they will not be able to help Lukashenka's regime. So on the 1st of March, I flew to Warsaw. Olena arrived a little later. When the war began on February 25, they went from Mykolaiv to my home in Chernivtsi. I thought they would stay there, but a few days later, they decided that they were going to Poland. We were invited by our Polish friends. They helped us a lot. We met late in the evening on the 1st of September in Warsaw. We were together almost a week. I was waiting for the papers to be made and permission to move to the side of Kyiv. Because we should understand that Belarus is a country of co-aggressors. Russian columns came from Belarus. Russian planes and missiles took off from our side. A man of Belarus still does not know Ukraine. We were gathered in Warsaw by the guys who went to fight with the Ukrainians. They wanted to fight against Russian aggression. At that moment, Belarusians were gathering in Kyiv at the base of Torio Azov.
Білоруси збиралися у підрозділ у Києві на базі ТРО Азова.
The papers were made by Torio Azov. We crossed the border between Poland and Ukraine on the 8th of September.
8 соковика пересекли межу.
On February 24, I woke up at 5 a.m. from bombs and missiles. On February 25, I had to leave my house with my mother. In the afternoon, there were fights in the city and the neighborhood. On February 24, I woke up in New York. My wife called me and said that her city was bombed. I immediately decided to fly to her. On February 24, my friends from different parts of the world began to send messages with the words of support. We pray for you, and my home is your home. I decided to go to a safer place. On February 1, I flew from New York to Warsaw.
Где збираюцца ўсе беларускія добраахвотнікі, которые жадаюць дапамагчы Украіне ў яе барацьбе супраць расійска-фашысцкай агрэсіі.
My colleague from the Polish national team accepted me. She, like many others, supports the people of Ukraine. We met for a short time in Warsaw, but were forced to part. I am going further to Ukraine to help her fight against aggression. And I will stay here and do everything to end the war as soon as possible. We are living people, and we want to live, love, do sports, and raise children. But two old warriors are dying not only for themselves, but for their people. And the peoples of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia are waiting to live in peace and prosperity. Glory to Ukraine. Long live Belarus. What can you say about the Russian sportsmen? I can say about the Russian sportsmen. One of them wrote to me, Lenya, the words of support. He took care of what Russia was doing and wrote the words of support. Another one of my former colleagues, an Olympic champion, wrote that everything is not so simple.
Былых коллег, олимпийский чемпион, он пытался спочатку писал, что не все так просто.
We need to talk. I just refused. We have nothing to talk about. We need to talk about bombing Mykolaiv, Kyiv, not Moscow. What is not so simple? I have good and normal people in Russia.
Я маю в Росії родних, добро, нормальных людей.
They understand everything that is going on. They saw what was going on. We had a training camp together with Azov. On the 20th and 21st of September, I don't remember the exact date, we went to Irpin.
21 соковика, зараз не пам'ятаю докладную дату, мы поехали группой в Ирпень.
We were there for a week. Our first fight was in Irpin. The first fight started when I was talking to a guy, a soldier.
Перший бой для меня почався з того, що я стояв, розмовляв з хлопцем, з вояром.
He was 10 years older than me. He was a veteran of the war in Afghanistan.
Був ветеран війни в Афганістані.
He fought in Donbass in 2013. His name was Volodya Bronzo. The first shot was fired at the building where we were.
Прилетіла міна, почався обстріл того будинку, у якому ми знаходилися. І прилітає міна, перший ж постріл.
Two of us were hit on the floor. I got up from the floor, but he did not.
Я піднявся знизу, а він ні.
He was seriously injured. We tried to help him, but there were no options.
Ну що, ми питалися допомогти йому, але там було...
It took 3 to 5 minutes.
Не ведаю, там 3 хвилини, 5 хвилин.
I closed his eyes. We came to help him.
Не на допомогу, на узмацнення.
He was surprised when he found out that we were Belarusian.
Коли він дознався, що ми білоруси,
he was very surprised. He said that everything was going to be fine.
Все у нас отримається.
I did a lot of professional sports.
Шмат годов професійного спорту.
I competed with veterans.
Змагання по ветеранам.
I kept in good shape.
Все життя тримав себе у фізичному стані доброму.
I did underwater swimming for the last few years.
Займався останні годи
I liked to go to the Carpathians.
Мені сподобалось у Карпатах ходити.
I liked to walk with a towel. We had a good teacher at school.
Ще у школі у нас останній розпад Совєтського Союзу був.
He was a good teacher.
Добрий наставник.
He was a teacher of the Russian.
Російською НВП, начальна військова підрихтовка, підставова військова підрихтовка, хоча за все так це називається.
He was a good teacher. It's been 35 years. I remember how to disassemble Kalashnikov's machine gun for the rest of my life.
Я запомнив на все життя.
I'm not 18 or 20, I'm 45.
Не 18, не 20 годов, а там 45.
My psyche is more stable.
Больше устойливая у людей.
Who will do this for us?
Треба, хто окрім нас? Хто зробить за нас гэта? Хто зробить?
How else? Later, we worked in various fields.
Працавалі на розных напрамках.
Then we stayed in Mykolaiv.
А пасля мы апынуліся ў Мікалаеве.
We took part in battles near Mykolaiv.
Пад Мікалаевам.
At the end of May, we took part in the capture of the first bridgeheads in Kherson.
Прымалі удзел у захопах тых першых плацдармаў на Херсоншчыне.
We caught those guys who were on the Davidov River. As I understand, there were several bridgeheads.
І, як я розумію, гэтых было некалькі плацдармаў.
We got caught on the Davidov River. Later, we went to Severodonetsk. After that, in the summer, in the middle of summer, we went to Zaporizhzhia.
Северодонецк. А пасля ўжо летам, у сярэдзіне лета, Запорожскі напрамак, Гуляйполе.
Ukraine. Somewhere near Zaporizhzhia. On the Gulye field. On the homeland of Nestor Makhno. We got lucky. The orc bull started to explode. In the fall, it was Bakhmut. After that, we found a direction. At the moment, our guys are still working on Bakhmut. When we captured the prisoners and mobilized them, they asked us, what were we doing there? We said we did not know anything. We were mobilized. We were not in the field. We were in the field. We were in the field.
Брали полонных і мобілізованих. Яны, питання, ким ти був там? Да я навіть не так.
We did not know anything. We were mobilized. We did not care about anything. I'm an engineer. I'm a professor. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. We did not care about anything. We did not expect this. We were thinking about politics. What can we do? I'm not interested in politics. Lukashenko is not Lukashenko. Putin is not Putin. He laughed at us. And then you. Nobody is trying to hurt you. They started a war about which no one is trying. Nobody is trying to hurt people. They started a war, mobilization, and you are not expecting anything. You are fighting a war, and you are on the side of evil. Where are you from? What is your brigade and position? I'm from the 87th. From the 87th. What is your position? I'm a soldier. What is your second position? I'm a gunner. When were you mobilized? I'm a gunner. Where are you from? Khabarovsk. Khabarovsk. And your second position? I'm from the Republic of Khabarovsk. Where are you from? I'm from the Republic of Khabarovsk. Quiet. Good. Everything is fine. I will advise you one thing. Follow the instructions precisely. You will get medical help. You will tell everything you know. Then you will be included in the exchange of bullets. Is everything clear? Yes. On a passionate Friday, before the great day, last year under Mykolaiv, when we were in the open field, under mortar shelling, there was no trench, no dugout. It was just a field. Several guys were wounded there. Then we had to hide in a small shelter. There were not mortars, but BMPs in the distance. We lay there and did not move. We were hit by an RMP arsenal carriers, and it turned out that we were hammered and that the shelling was over. We lay there, not moving. When the smell of grass in the spring smells like grass, you lie there and you have goosebumps crawling. and you lie and bang. Well, bang. Let's carry. Let's carry. Bang. Then we ran again. The mortar worked on us. We got to the point where we went to the observation post. There was a shot. Maybe not as accurate as before. Then, for the rest of my life, I remember on the northern outskirts of Bakhmut, at the end of the winter, at the end of January of this year, we worked on a hammer. We came to pick up. It was already night. At night, we came to pick up a group of specialists who were taken to this position a day before. Unfortunately, the hammer stopped. Had a lot of people in one group. The same. The push shot, the shelling began. The guys immediately, quickly turned to positions because there was to hide. One of the guys was hit, wounded, and fell and hurt his back. But there were two. I stayed in the winter because the wounded need here provided help. It was more moral help because, as it turned out later, the guy had pneumothorax puncture. He calmed down. He himself was a good specialist, paramedic. We were on the side. No one left. We organized evacuation, waited for evacuation, then turned to me. My guy from my entertainment, Belarusian. We were waiting for the side, which was supposed to take us, but another shot began from a different angle. In my opinion, it was a tank, because he was shooting from afar. There was a little shot, because when the tank is shooting next to you, it's terrible. You don't hear the shot, but the flight comes in, and then there is no sound, because the mortar on the position, we were on the slope, and the mortar, he would still get to us, but there were flights, and I'm like this. He will not get us, but the last shot hit the tree. The guy was lying, the tree from the other side, and he hit the tree. The guy got much more than me. I'm saying that I'm lucky. I got it. And the guy got much more. Mine explosion. There was a scar in the right hand. He is small. And in the left hand, pure bite. We sewed it well. And in a certain time, everything had to be restored. How is the sports career? I was a veteran. We'll see. Now it's not about the sports career. Now it's not about that. Now it's about the victory. About the struggle and about the victory. And then the victory of Ukraine over Russia. Then there will be the winners in Belarus. And there will be a lot of work in Belarus. About the sports career, I don't think about that. Now there is such a war. Firstly, there are different military specialties, professions. And last year, I fought with gun caliber machine guns. This is the enemy's damage. From a distance of 1 kilometer to the right, much to the right. Higher. A little to the left. Move the fire to the right. I see a target. Now there is such a war that when it is not convenient with such a growth in the trench, when you go through the green, you need to bend down. You need to go through the bushes when you are small. It is more convenient. In the trench, in the dugouts, you need to sit down. You need more space. You need to go through the hatch. Such moments are not the most important, brothers. For example, at the very zero, where there is a short distance, when the enemy that my call is uncle, and they don't call me Pavlo, I'm not used to it. Uncle in Ukraine, in Western Ukraine. No uncle is with us today. Uncle, you don't need to go. It will be hard for you. In my opinion, it was such a meat grinder. For the Russians, it was such a sacred place where they waited to grab it. Under any conditions, under any strat, they waited. For the meat grinder, here you go. Let's eat this meat. We will grind it here as much as possible. Here we are joking such black jokes, and the fact that more than anything, for Ukraine the same pluses and the main minuses was for Belarus, Czechova, some part of them, and what and how. We can't know for sure what and how. In my opinion, why it happened. Putin needed to negotiate with Prigozhin, but how? How will he negotiate with Prigozhin? Here is Lukashenko. I will help him for many years. I will gather with Prigozhin. At first they decided, Lukashenko, how that he will just transfer information, in my opinion. And Lukashenko decided to take advantage of this situation and not just transfer what Putin said. Decided to take advantage of this situation. Here, there can be a lot of variants. For example, when we talk about professional military and special forces, which went through not one war, but the very one in Ukraine, they can instruct the Belarusian army. This is experience. This is the first variant. The second variant, Lukashenko decided that Prigozhin will take over, work in Africa, in Syria, in Asia, in Middle East, and in Africa, and some dividends. Here is the second variant. On the one hand, there is experience of the army, for example, 5,000 to 10,000 people, and they can help Lukashenko when the time comes. And on the other hand, we all saw what was happening in Russia, and when these 5 to 10 people decided another way, to use the situation in Belarus, how can I turn to Belarus? There is a criminal case. Okay. We are all enemies of the state, those who fight with Lukashenko, with his regime. We will turn to Belarus, unfortunately, a little late, but we will turn. I did not remember a case under the control of armed formations, but I have never seen such a super mirror in Belarus, maybe in my city. There are 100,000 people in my city leading. This is northwestern Belarus, to Vilnius 90 kilometers, to Polska Mezi. I do not remember how in 2014, when the attacks began, and I did not want to come here to fight in Ukraine. I remembered my mother all the time, and now it isn't. To fight between evil and good, I think for normal people, there should not be any questions in my head. Zaluzny Progut said that this is not a movie. You got popcorn and sit here. Everyone who starts, they did not remove. Welcome to the party. We invite you. Come on. Now show us how it should be. This is a war. We all understand that the resource in Ukraine is not the same as in Russia. And you have to use it with your head. In my opinion, Ukrainian counteroffensive will gain momentum, and we will all see to take it out. The help of Ukraine, in my opinion, is the return to the cordon. In 1991, immediately after this, in Russia, will not be satisfied. It is possible before this time, someone in Russia, with Edlik on the head of Putin, and those who come to power, maybe someone will come to power and solve the war until the victorious end. But I am more inclined to my opinion that we will return to the cordon in 1991, because in Russia there will be processes when they will have to solve the mourning cases